Well, to make up for my recent laziness and the fact that I'm going to be starting another channel soonish, as well as to capitalize on the upcoming release of Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z, I figured I'd do a top X list. X can be any number from 5 to 15. And as Dr. Kane said in the Mega Man X OVA, X stands for limitless possibilities, and that's what I stand for too, damn it. So, what is this top X list, you ask? Well, it's the top 6 games based off of anime, of course. Why top 6? Fuck you, you try to find more than 6 anime games that aren't pure shit. Well, I've done most of the work for you, as you just need to find that elusive 7th game. Anime, known to all of its fans simply as anime, is a form of Japanese animation. While it simply started off as cartoons, anime has sorta evolved into its own genre. What was considered exceptional in the 60s through to the 80s has now sorta become commonly accepted among many. The anime boom, which I won't go into here, was an event where Japanese animation became more and more popular due to televised series like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. Naturally, video game adaptations soon followed as early as the late 1970s. While many of them were shit, and stayed in Japan, some saw North American releases. This list isn't about games that did or didn't see an international release, so you'll see some Japan exclusive games in here, and some that got retail releases outside of Japan. Without further ado, let's get this shit started, son. Now, not being a big fan of the Naruto franchise, this game surprised me. Not only is it a fun fighting game, but it's a pretty fun beat-em-up too. Aside from the absolute garbage story, the gameplay, music, and visuals are all very impressive to look at, and even among non-anime games too. I'd say this is probably one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Regardless of your stance on the franchise, I highly suggest checking this game out. You're not going to regret it. If you like fighting games, you're not going to regret it. If you like beat-em-ups, you're gonna love it too. It's all around, it's just a great game. It's really fun, even if you're not a fan of the franchise. It's really fun. Just stop watching this video and go on PSN or Xbox Live Arcade and just download the demo. Seriously, you won't regret it. It's fun. It really. Fucking listen, man. One Piece Grand Adventure. One Piece was one of the anime that had the misfortune of getting butchered by 4 kids. The game harkens back to the classic Power Stone franchise, which Capcom needs to revive. Take the hint, Capcom. After the Dreamcast died, I feared I would never get to experience a Power Stone 3. How wrong I was, as Power Stone 3 did come out as One Piece Grand Battle. But that game was a butchered localization, as it contained characters not yet introduced in the 4Kids dub, which all ended up getting cut out in the US release. So a roster of nearly 25 characters became 18 or so. Regardless, this is about the game's sequel, which was only released in the Western world and kicked even more ass. Retaining only 2 players, the game added in a terrible campaign, but also added in almost every character who got cut from the previous game. It also saw various visual improvements, herpaderp, music uphauls, and improved mechanics. If you can find it used, get it. Just avoid the PS2 version, as it contains some pretty bad frame rate issues. Good old Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit. No Budokai Tenkaichi 3? Well, there's a reason. As much as I love Budokai Tenkaichi 3, I always preferred the Budokai games. Now, Budokai the First ended with the Cell Saga, leaving its sequel open to the fights with Majin Buu. And the third game built more upon the fighting mechanics, as well as included characters from the movies and various TV specials. Burst Limit wasn't a Budokai 4, but was a reboot. It was rebooting the Budokai series. It was a reboot. Are you getting this in your head, Dragon Ball Z fans? Seriously? It was a reboot. Fucking let it go. It went back to the start and finished at the Cell games. Now, many fans hated this. I, for one, welcomed it. It was much longer than the first Budokai and incorporated elements from Budokai 3, and expanded upon them as well. On top of that, aside from Full Burst, Burst Limit is probably the best looking anime game I've ever seen. Or would be if not for my #1 spot. Burst Limit's only major problem was the drama pieces. Tiny little cutscenes that play mid-fight which are meant to give you a little stat boost, but all I got from them was a fucking migraine. Seriously, Dimps, with Burst Limit 2, if you make it, no drama pieces. Understand? Good. You're off the hook this time. Get working on Ultra Street Fighter 4. Now, I couldn't find any footage of Jump Ultimate Stars, so here's a screenshot. Enjoy. Take Super Smash Bros., throw away the unforgettable characters like Mario, and add in a bunch of people no one gives 5 fucks about. What do you get? Well, you get PlayStation All-Stars. But add in a bunch of characters from manga serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump, and you get Jump Ultimate Stars. It's more like a traditional fighting game than Smash Bros. Is, but the influence SSB had on the game is unmistakable. Characters from Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball, Kinnikuman, it's okay if you've never heard of that one, and Knights of the Zodiac all appear, as well as characters from many other franchises like Death Note, Naruto, One Piece, Rurouni Kenshin. There's a few more. Not much to say about it other than it's pretty darn awesome, and if you're an anime fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're not, you might not be able to appreciate the fan service. This was the hardest one to place. On one hand, I wanted to put Tatsunoko vs. Capcom here, but that's a game with anime characters and not so much a game based off of an anime. What is a great game based off of an anime, however, is Sailor Moon Arcade. In an anime where nary a single punch is thrown, you'd be surprised that a beat-em-up based off of it wouldn't just be good, but really good. I rank this up as high as I do Turtles in Time on my top beat-em-ups of all time list. Now, the game is your typical beat-em-up, but it's fun, satisfying, and just a blast to play with friends. The game has you fighting off a ton of classic enemies from the cartoon, like lesbian tennis players and demonic grannies, and of course, who could forget the episode where Sailor Moon fights Martha Stewart? Little known fact, I actually do have a bit of a history with this game. I played this game on a school field trip once, with a girl in my class who I didn't even know was into the series. She was one of the rich girls who otherwise wouldn't have even given me the time of day. But because of this game and the show, we had something to talk about and became pretty good friends. Thanks, Sailor Moon. I owe you one. Shame it only allows for 2 players. And in the #1 spot, it's Attack on Titan for the 3DS. No, I'm just kidding. It's Kinnikuman Muscle Grand Prix 2. Tommy Knockers, Torimanaku, who the fuck cares? The game's awesome. You see, with all the games on this list, I wouldn't recommend too many of them to people who weren't fans of their respective franchises. But among the list, there's 2 exceptions, and Muscle Grand Prix 2 is definitely one of them. Kinnikuman is an anime based off of a manga from 1979 about an idiot superhero named Kinnikuman. Kinnikuman tries his best, but no matter how hard he tries, he always screws up. The series started off as a comedy, parodying various superheroes like Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and even Superman. I'll do more on it at a later date. And thus we come to the main point. Muscle Grand Prix 2 isn't just a great Kinnikuman game, it's a great fighting game in general. It's the most technical anime fighter I've ever played. Now, other Kinnikuman games were straightforward wrestling games, nothing special about them, and they had the generic cel-shaded visuals of other anime games, which made them not stand out among all the Budokais and Ultimate Ninjas out there. But then Muscle Grand Prix 2 comes along. It's not cel-shaded like most anime games, and unlike other anime games, which is solely meant to please the fans and get the fans' dollar, it's actually designed with care, not just for the source material, but for the fighting game genre itself. The game features a bevy of technical mechanics for fighting game fans to sink their teeth into, and it's an absolute blast. It doesn't have 4-player matches because, well, it's not a wrestling game, it's a fighting game with some wrestling moves. It feels more like Virtua Fighter than it does any of the WWE games. Speaking of which, this was made by Aki Corporation. Yeah, the same guys behind the amazing wrestling games on the N64, that Aki Corporation. It's a shame that this series isn't more well known outside of Japan, as I think this game could probably be featured in tournaments like EVO. And that is not an overstatement. Now, Aki isn't exactly around. I think they changed the name to Sin Sophia or something, I guess. If anyone can get in contact with them, a new Kinnikuman on the PS3, 360, and Wii U with online, Create a Fighter, and the same engine as this game here, I would buy stocks in your company if you made that. I freaking promise you. Well, there you have it, folks, the best 6 anime games that I could find. If there's any you disagree with, any you would have placed differently on the list, then put them in the comments below, let me know, let me sort of interact with you guys a little bit. And remember to click the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you like this video, then stay tuned for my upcoming channel, which will be more on anime and stuff like that, a little less gaming oriented, and I'll try to be more consistent with that one than I am with what I'm currently doing. But next video will be another Top X, this time the top 10 worst anime games. Till next time.